unanimously 7-0. Item number 2, text amendment. Continued from August 7th, 2018, amend the 2009 West Jordan Code, sections 13-12-6C.1, 13-12-6C.5, 13-5B-7D.2, and 13-5B-7D.3 regarding residential parking requirements with citywide applicability, with the City of West Jordan being the applicant. Commissioner Green.
Now I lost my place. I'm going to make a motion that we forward a positive recommendation on the changes to the ordinance that you just read. I'm not going to repeat that. With one amendment, and that would be on page 4 of the report. That's 13-5B-7D, paragraph 1 in red, and amend it to say may be stored in the rear yard and or side yard and may extend into the front yard. So it's a motion to approve with that amendment.
Commissioner Quinney.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Green, a second by Commissioner Quinney. Any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, let's please vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously 7-0, which brings us to our public hearing for this evening. Oquirrh Mountain Resort, 9000 South, U111 Highway. Future land use map amendment for 221 acres from low-density residential, medium-density residential, high-density residential, neighborhood commercial, community commercial, and public facilities to medium-density residential, very high-density residential, and community commercial, and rezone from SC-1, R-1-10E, P-F, A-20, and LSFR zones to PC Planned Community Zone. Oquirrh Mountain Resort, LLC, Myron Child is the applicant, and you're welcome to come forward and present your application this evening. You'll have up to 10 minutes. Thank you.
I'm not Myron Child. Yes, my name is Greg Hawes. I work for SOMAS. That's P-S-O-M-A-S. P-S-O-M-A-S, yes. The address is 4179 South Riverboat Road, Murray, Utah. I appreciate your time, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the project and kind of explain the thought process by which we work with staff. First of all, I want to thank staff for their time and input. This project, the first time we brought it to them, had some issues with it. And we've worked several times, iterations to the plan, and I think the plan is much better, much better today than it was several months ago when we began working with staff. So I appreciate their patience with us and their willingness to help us along. As was mentioned before, the project is bounded by Highway 111 and straddles, it fits between 90th South and 86th South, just west of 64th West. The project is approximately 221.07 acres. The current zoning, as you mentioned, was A1, A20, some R1, 10E, some public facilities, and some low-density single-family residential, with a little bit of commercial ground zoned at the top northwest corner. And we are asking for a planned community zone to be placed on the entire project. This is the general plan. You can see that the general plan, is there a laser pointer here, Ray? Will they be able to see it? The general plan land use calls for some community commercial on this corner of 90th South and Highway 111, some high-density residential, some medium-density residential, a public facilities parcel here that I think it was anticipated that there would be a school parcel, some neighborhood commercial, and then the majority of it would be low-density residential. If you look at our land use, we wanted to make sure that we champion the spirit of what you wanted to do there, providing a commercial node on the corner, a some pockets of very high density residential, and I'll explain what those are here in a second. But the majority of the area will be a medium density blend, a blend of different size lots. We recognize that we have neighbors. We want to make sure that we're compatible and sensitive to the neighbors that have been living there for a long time. The neighborhoods to the north are a blend of 8,000 and 9,000 square foot lots. There's a piece in here that's 6,000 square foot lots. There's some 5,000 square foot lots. To the east of the project, there's 10,000 square foot lots and thirds, quarters, and third acre lots along 64th West. And our idea was to make sure that we transition and use like for like. We're proposing like lots against against existing development. The overall statistical breakdown, we're providing 30.46% of our project in open space. It's 50.35 acres. There's about 3.6 acres of 30% slope, so that 30% slope is not counted in any of the open space. We have about 40 acres of roads, 194 acres of medium density that yields 654 units. Very high density residential is on about 17.22 acres, and there's 445 very high density units and approximately 9.67 acres of commercial ground provided on the corner of Highway 111 and 90th South. We're asking for a total of 1,099 units on 221 acres. That's approximately 4.97 dwelling units per acre. That's our gross density. And you can see this is a breakdown. It's hard to make a map showing diversity of lots that doesn't look tutti frutti. So this is our tutti frutti map. It's got a different, let me go back here. Oops, I'm probably going the wrong way here. Oops, I was going the wrong way. Sorry, bear with me. It's color-coded so you can see the different size lots. We have some estate lots. We have 80 to 81 lots that are between 10,000 and 12,000 square feet. And those are sprinkled primarily along in the northern portion of the project that abuts the existing development. All of the area up here is large lots. Very, very few of those are 6,000 square foot lots. The majority of them are above 6,000 square feet, above 7,000 square feet. We have Barney's Creek that runs through the middle of the project, and when we get to the open space features, several of the open space amenities are located in the Barney's Creek corridor. We have the commercial again on this corner, a very large recreational amenity here in the center, and then these areas that are called out. And I'm sure that people here are concerned when we say very high density. What does that mean? This area here is an active assisted living facility. So there's 85 assisted living units that are about 30 units to the acre. So it's very high density, but that's what it's assisted living facilities are like anyway. They're a high density development. The areas that are colored here in this brown colored, you can see these buildings. These are our age restricted units, and they are. I'll give you more details about what those are here in a minute. But these are age restricted. We do have one one cluster of this same type of product that we wanted to make a market rate townhome. I'll show you what those look like here in a second. Oh, one more thing, and we have a potential church site on right off of 64th West. The circulation was important to make sure that we're providing connectivity through the city. The city's on the city's Transportation Master Plan calls for 67th West to come through this project. We wanted to make sure that we're providing for that connectivity, but not creating a raceway. We want to make sure that the cars can get through there, but they're not, they're not trying to set speed records from south to north. So we've implemented some roundabouts in the project to try to calm and slow down the traffic. These will be, this is a major collector, and it complies with your city standards of a 70-foot right-of-way section. The vast majority of our streets in this project are a 50-foot street section, complying with your local street your local street profile. We're not proposing anything different than what the city standards are. You can see that there's a lot of cul-de-sacs. We have a loop road that kind of holds the majority of the project together and encircles this major amenity. And then we've got a series of cul-de-sacs that splay off. But we've also provided other ways to connect to a street that would abut the west side of the school property. This is a 30-acre school property. And this street would also come out from this inner loop and connect back into 6400 West. And we jump Barney's in 3 locations. We would jump Barney's Creek. 2 more roundabouts in this location, then tie back into 86 South. Very extensive trails network that are off-street. And these trails would comply with the standards that the city's established for trail corridors. Again, this is an overview of the different type of attached product. We mentioned the seniors hamlets, there's 360 of those units. The market rate townhomes, there's 108. And the assisted living is 85 units. Give you a little flavor of what those might look like. This is an artistic rendering from our architect of what these buildings will look like. It's a podium product. So there's underground parking and then 3 levels of residential above it. This is a little, we've gone back to the drawing board with our architect. Back there, he's shown in this early sketch, there's a 4th level.
Just ballpark figure how much more time.
Oh, just maybe 5 more minutes. Okay, thank you, apologize. So this is a schematic. This is the bottom level. This is the podium level. All of the units will be parked underneath. We'll have guest parking that's on the surface, but the residents themselves will be able to, because it's an age-targeted, age-restricted unit. They'll be able to access stair turrets in these locations, and it'll also be it will be elevator fed. So this will be they'll have elevators. This is the upper. This is just one level, but the 3 levels will be the same. You can see here, and I know this graphic is difficult to read, but there's 3-bedroom units on the corners, and these interior units are 2-bedroom units. Just some conceptual ideas of what the larger lots would look like. These are products that would fit on 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 square foot lots. So they'd be nice homes. These are some ideas of some of the architecture we are looking for on the smaller lots between 6,000 and 8,000 square feet. Just an overview of the open space. To be quite candid with you, I've never worked with a client like this before. Usually when as a planner, I'm telling the client, you know what, you got to put in some open space. You really should include some amenities. This client is different. The first thing out of their mouth was this: we want this to be a world-class, luxury, highly amenitized community. And I thought, okay, I started to try to test them. So what do you mean by that? What do you want us to put in that? And I give them a list of kind of the hot things that master plan communities are incorporating these days. And their initial response was, that's great, but we can do better than that. And they just kept adding and adding and adding. You'll see here. They're putting their money where their mouth is. So very extensive trail system, very extensive open space network. This is a list of the open space amenities: an amphitheater, arts and crafts rooms, basketball court, three bocce courts, large clubhouse with 2 offices, conservatory. I'm not going to go through the entire list. You have that in your document. But this is, all of these elements find their place in this community, which will be maintained, installed, and managed by the HOA. The client has already contracted with the sports mall to operate the clubhouse, and it would be open to the public for a fee. They could buy a membership. When you purchase your home, you get a membership into the club. So I'm just going to walk you through. There's a large clubhouse and a small clubhouse. And this is just some of the amenities around each of the facility. Large clubhouse is over 10,000 square feet, has an indoor and an outdoor pool. There's pickleball courts, basketball courts. There's a tennis court complex here in the corner. We've surrounded the tennis court with what they're calling an ice ribbon. I don't know if you've been out to Harriman Town Center. They have an ice ribbon. We will have one in this project as well. There's an amphitheater, pavilions, there's putting greens, there's hammock grottos, there's an open play area, there's parking for 200 cars. This smaller clubhouse has a pool with a lazy river around it, a couple of pickleball courts, an arts and crafts building, sand volleyball courts, and small park open spaces. Some initial renderings of what the clubhouse will look like. It's very, very nice. It's going to be a fantastic facility. Some examples of some of the amenities that we're proposing for this project. We'll have a disc golf course that's running up and down Barney's Creek. But just some imagery of what the amenities might look like. Jogging trails, swimming pools, pavilions. We have an orchard planned on the side of Barney's Creek. Commercial, we have 9.67 acres of commercial in the corner. This is a schematic layout. Nothing's been planned, set in stone. We will be working with tenants to see what their size and spatial needs are. But again, just kind of some flavor of what the massing of this retail development might look like. It's not insignificant. Kind of a critical part of the community. Stormwater detention, we've considered that in our plan. We've taken it into account the Barney's Creek floodplain. We're in the process of working through a LOMAR with FEMA to remove that, to make that map adjustment. And we wouldn't be able to build any of those houses impacted by that until that's signed off. All of the 30% slopes are associated with Barney's Creek. We won't be developing any of those. We'll be leaving those alone. And that's just an initial, a conceptual phasing plan. We anticipate there'll be 4 phases, and the vast majority of the amenities will come up front in the first phase. Ray, I guess I'm going to turn the time over to you. Haws, Haws. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Haws? Commissioner Green?
Yes, if you mentioned early in your presentation that the goal was to champion the spirit of what we intended in that area.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, why are we putting all the very high residential areas in an area that's on the future land use map as a low-density residential area? How does that explain to me how that champions the spirit of an area that we've got identified as low density for the future of the city?
That's a very good question. I do have quite a long history with West Jordan City. I worked in 2004 on the West Side Area Plan. I know that the West Side Area Plan is no longer on your books. But the remnants of that West Side Area Plan, it manifests themselves in your general land use plan. And if you go look at your general land use plan, you'll notice that there's a node around that intersection of 90th South and Highway 111. I drew that map. The idea was to create a node, a viable node, and surround it by some high density, and then transition away from that node with appropriate densities as you get farther away from that node. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to provide a node on that corner with community commercial, and then I know that they're not exactly in the same locations, but we have some appropriate higher densities. I know they're listed as very high density because that's the category that your city puts 30 units to the acre in. That's what the flavor is. But we've also tried to locate those in a place that's adjacent to commercial and adjacent, right next to this major amenity, the large clubhouse facility, so that they can walk there, so they have that quality of life. They live right adjacent to it. And I think that's a responsible thing to do.
Thank you, Commissioner Luthi.
Thank you. I live very near this. And very first thing I noticed when I saw this packet was how many wonderful amenities are. That is something that I preach constantly from right here. How much a difference that makes in the community. So I love that. The only question I have for you is it looks like your mix of the high-end large estate lots with the lower lots is not pretty even. Is there any consideration on maybe upping so that you've got a little bit more of those nicer lots and a little less of those middle of the range lots? The high density doesn't really concern me. It's just the mix of the other two. I feel like it's really swayed towards the small lots compared to the large ones.
No, I appreciate that. The challenge you run into is when you start making 6,000 square foot lots into larger lots, you're reducing your lot count. So the disparity between single-family residential and multifamily residential gets bigger. You know what I'm trying to say? That the fewer of the single-family lots, it doesn't balance as well with the multifamily, the attached.
Concern is that you're going to not have the 16.5 that you were aiming for. You would end up having a higher amount because you were. See, to me, that seems like a silly challenge to.
We're open. We're open to that conversation. Sure. We're open to that.
Commissioner Green.
I'm gonna come back to my question. I specifically asked, and you talked about the node, and I'm familiar with the west side planning area, but as you look at that map on the future land use map with the medium density and the low density residential, you've got on that map, I'm gonna say roughly about 50% of the land for the future land use map is designated as low density residential under the current future land use map. If you've only got 13 homes, if I remember the count right, 13 homes who would actually qualify as low density residential, how does that champion the spirit of what we have on a future land use map?
So Ray, help me out here. Is a 10,000 square foot lot low density or medium density? A 10,000 square foot lot is a medium density home?
So you only have 12,000 square foot lots that are low density, and if I remember the number, it's 13. It's 13. 1% of the the current general plan has almost 50% of this area as low density, yet you have 1% of the housing units in your proposed as low density. How does that champion the spirit of of what we have on a general plan?
One thing, the last joint meeting between the planning commission and city council, we had this discussion of 10,000. And at that time, the council and planning commission consensus was to move the R110 to the low density category, not the medium.
We haven't done that yet.
They haven't done that, but as you're working.
Okay.
Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you. As you're talking about your senior housing, you say it's senior housing for age 55 and older. Does that mean everybody that lives there has to be 55 and older, or just one person that lives there has to be 55?
Quite honestly, I'm not sure about the rules of qualification, but I'm assuming that one person that's living in that unit has to be 55 and older.
Becomes a multi-family unit,
What, you know?
not a
our intent is not to make this so when I first began this with the client, they wanted the entire community to be age targeted, age restricted, and then they've run into market analysis and to see how deep that market really is, and it's not realistic to have 1,000 units that are all age restricted. I will look into that because our intent is not to make this a multifamily project. We're not trying to play numbers here. This is primarily a age restricted community, a highly amenitized luxury age restricted environment. So we're not trying to play games with the age qualifying thing.
And I realize that. We're just running into a lot of these senior housing.
Mhm.
And they have empty nesters or whatever, and only one person 55 has lived there for the last week to live there, and bring my 2 grandchildren there. So you've got other people, younger people running around, teenagers, that type of thing. So it really isn't age restricted as long as one person 55.
We'll look into those rules of those qualifying rules. Yep.
As far as age restricted housing, I mean, the owner of the unit has to meet the age restricted requirement, but I think, and Dr. correct me if I'm wrong, if we started going out and enforcing people younger than 55 or living was the owner of the unit, we'd run into all kinds of federal fair housing issues.
So, Mr. House, just to clarify, which portion of the development is going to be age 55 and older?
Can you go down, Ray? It's actually lower, Ray. It's like slide number 20. No, right above there. Sorry, slide 13, 12. So this is the assisted living facility. This is age restricted, age restricted, age restricted. This is your market rate townhomes, right near the facility.
Great, thank you. You mentioned the amenities would be established in the first phase. What about the commercial?
The commercial is it's in a separate phase with the assisted living facility. We're not proposing that comes in the last phase. It's broken out separately. So if the commercial comes in immediately, we're all for it. But that's something that needs to be dictated by the market.
Great, I think the slide would somewhere at number 7. That shows the commercial. The only reason I mentioned it is I know we had concerns in the past of commercial just ultimately by the wayside after the residential areas have been built out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the clarification. Commissioner Quinn?
Thank you, Red. 2 questions. First one, and I know this is really hard to predict because obviously it's market driven, but any idea what you're looking at in this commercial space? Are we looking at some kind of a grocery store or office buildings? What are we looking at?
You know, what we've planned initially is about a 45,000 square foot box. Could be a small grocery store, and then some ancillary pads, some drive-throughs, could be bank pads, and there actually could be an office component to it as well. But again, this is so preliminary. I don't know. But we've accommodated using your parking ratios for a large 50,000 square foot box, and then some ancillary buildings.
Next question, and this kind of piggybacks a little bit off what Commissioner Green, but keeping with the spirit, in that northwest corner, currently it's zone neighborhood commercial.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking, I was pulling up and showing him, going to Google Maps or Google Earth, looking at, there's nothing. Okay, there's nothing, not even gas stations. And I'm just trying to figure out, is it the highest and best use to completely eliminate even that tiny little segment where we leave a gas station that would
would love that.
Any other questions for Mr. Hawes? Thank you. We'll reserve some time for you after the public comment section if there's anything you'd like to address.
Thank you.
Appreciate your presentation. Mr. McCandless, you have this item from the city.
Yes, thank you. Members of the planning commission, Mr. Chairman. I think that Mr. Haas has done a good job of going over a lot of what I was going to talk about as part of the presentation. We really like the open space amenities. We like how the phasing plan includes a lot of the recreational amenities up front, which has been a concern in the planning commission in the past. There are a lot of cul-de-sacs, but if you notice, they're tucked up close to where the pedestrian connections are located. Close to sidewalks, along Market Street. This is to allow pedestrians to get through to those recreational areas. It's well thought through. We like the architecture of the buildings, the fact that parking is more narrow units. We also like the attention given to the adjoining, what the existing land uses are surrounding this property, how that's met integrates with those tenants. They preserve the commercial area, as discussed as part of the general plan on that intersection of North and South, Highway 111. Like the architecture and single family dwellings. We just think that overall, there are a lot of zoning districts on this property now. I think we just bring that all under the plan committee zoning district, one zoning district can handle. We have the conventional layout of the project that is so we don't, is the future land use map guide that recommended, which is supposed to be the most exact. But we do support the zoning request and have the future land use map.
Thank you, Mr. McCandless. Any questions for staff at this point? Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair. Greg, could you just show the walk pathways again, that slide? Shows how everything's integrated.
And if you wouldn't mind speaking closer to the microphone, I'm getting the feeling that some of our citizens can't hear what you're saying.
My concern is connectivity to the north and into the community, walkways.
That's basis on the south. This is just moving up the street itself, privately held without the only connections through to that, just there's actually a couple, there's one off to the left-hand side, right here, then the streets that are and here, so those are seven connection points.
So those that are living on the north end to get to the two facilities, the amenities, the trails, if they wish to walk, which would you prefer? They're just walking city streets, is that, there's no trail activities?
Just the standard sidewalks.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll move into the public hearing section of this meeting. One of the things that I really enjoy about serving on planning commission is always having unique perspectives up here. And we're able to mention some things that the other commissioners might not otherwise think of. In a similar fashion, we recognize that citizens have unique points of view and we want to understand your perspectives. So we want you to feel welcome to come up and speak. You'll have up to 3 minutes each. And if we could please ask, to ensure we can focus on the issues at hand, but not necessarily belabor the point, please feel welcome to speak. However, if you are just reiterating what someone prior to
Correct. So when I sit on my back deck, I'm looking out over that open field area right there. So you know where I live. Two concerns that I have. One is the traffic in that area. I've lived there for 9 years now, and over that 9 years, the traffic has grown exponentially, and I see this as really exacerbating that situation quite a bit. And I would think that expanding 111 to 4 lanes all the way down to the 201 would be something that would be very important to ensure good traffic flow. Ever since they put that new Smith's out there at 78th and 56th, people from Magna and even Tooele County routinely come in on 111 to shop at that Smith's. And so it's really adding a lot of congestion to the area. And I'm very happy that that's there. I appreciate not having to drive all the way, to the 9,000 Smiths to shop. The second concern I have is a little personal, of course. I love going and sitting on my deck and watching all the antelope, deer, and elk that come into that field on a daily basis. Elk and deer are rare, but they do come in there. But antelope are in there almost every single day. I've seen herds as big as 44 antelope at the same time. That's a lot of habitat for them that's going to disappear. And I really think that's going to be a concern if that starts getting developed with accidents with vehicles and antelope increasing significantly. Every now and then you do see a dead one out there now on 111, but I think that will really drive it up. So probably some coordination with Department of Natural Resources on maybe some relocation of some of those antelope as part of this would be an important thing to take into consideration, even though I would hate to see them gone because I love sitting out there on the deck and watching them. Some comments were made about, the commercial space out there and what to put in there. And I believe it was Commissioner Hanson made the comment about a nice restaurant. And yeah, I would love to see a nice sit-down kind of restaurant versus a fast food kind of place come out there so that we don't have to drive so far for a nice night out for dinner. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Snow. We will definitely
Address that. Next up, we have Carlene Lester, 6359 West Twin Tree Drive.
I just learned about this yesterday, so I didn't know too much or planned anything. But I live on 6400 West, right at that roundabout, kitty corner. So if I'm standing in my backyard, I can see that whole field. My main concern is my kids and the schools. The schools are already popping at the seams out there. There's relocatables everywhere at all the schools. So I know that at one time there was school property on U11 that has recently already been sold to be single family homes. And I have seen I've lived in my home 5 years now, and I've seen 4 developments of high density apartments and condos go in. To get home from the Smiths to home takes me 15 minutes right now, just right there, because of the roads. So to add that much more population concerns me for all of those reasons. When we moved there, I anticipated that being low density single family homes. This changes everything. I have one question though, will that community be available for everyone to use, or is it only for those that are in that development? That I don't know.
Great, thank you.
Does anybody know that?
We'll address that to the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Bart Saxey, 8563 South, Reynoldstone Drive.
Yes, Rundlestone Drive. So also, when I purchased my home, one of the things I did was look at the zoning around my home and made the decision to buy where I bought because of the zoning, and we weren't going to put a bunch of high-density housing in, and now we're beginning to change all the way up 7800 South. You guys have put high-density and medium-density housing in. Along 5600 West, you've just put new apartment complexes in high-density. And so I look at that plan, and I wonder what the motivating factor is to switch from the low density that we currently have it zoned to now medium, it looks like about 3/4 medium density and the rest high density, and zero low density housing, which is what it's currently zoned for. And so my concern is that you've taken, you know, a couple of square miles out there and you guys have turned it into pretty much medium and high density all around us. And I'm wanting to understand if this was in your backyard, how you would feel about it. If when you purchased your home, you checked the zoning. And then the last question I have is there a way that procedurally that the residents can stop this, or is it just based on you guys making that decision and then the votes that we carry? Is that the only recourse we have? Is there another avenue that we can take to fight this?
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. We'll address that as well. Appreciate it. Anyone else? You are welcome to come to the podium.
And speak. If you could just state your name and address for the public record, please.
It's Scott Perry, and sorry, what do I need to state again? I didn't catch all of that. 6221 Black Goose Circle. I'm a 7-year resident of West Jordan, live directly east of the proposed area. And like the last person that spoke, when I moved out, I checked the zoning areas, and it was planned low-density single-family residential, which is something that enticed me to the area. There are some apartment communities that have gone up since I've moved in. One just off New Bingham, the others on 56. And here there's one planned next to the Sycamores as well. But my main concern with the planning is not necessarily the amenities or the other things that are nice about the open space, but the number of people. The number of dwelling units per acre is just far too high. We look out at this area, and as we stated before, that the schools in this area are just overcrowded. And I know that there are plans in motion to look at that by the school district, but just adding that many people out to that much of a small area really doesn't do the schools any favor. I know there's a small area that might be planned for maybe an elementary school, but we need another junior high or middle school out in that area as well. In addition, there is no public transportation in the area, which is not something that I'm complaining about, but this will actually cause for this area to flood the streets. The potential for traffic just going through the roof is just too far above and beyond with the number of people that are looking to have move into this area. And in conjunction with that, the commercial as well. I know that there's areas that are zoned for commercial, and I know that that's something that is dependent on developers going in and developing those areas, but we need more commercial in the area. It's something that's that many number of people without anything out there that, as far as commercial goes, is not really tenable. It's not something that we want to look at. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Would anyone else like to speak?
I live at 6613 Sunrise Oak Drive. We've been in our house now for about 10, 12 years, and we look south right across that. My concern is the vehicular traffic that's planned for 8600 South. Is there any way possible, and I don't have a big objection to this area. I know it's going to bring in a lot more people, and I knew it was coming. I don't like I don't anticipate a lot of the commercial development, stuff like that, and I'd rather have residential than commercial property back there, but I'm not really wanting to see vehicular traffic right behind my house. We're looking right on the back of the field right there at 8600. And if I could not have a lot of vehicle traffic coming through that area, I'd appreciate it. Maybe a walking path or something like that. Something to consider. Up 8600 instead of having a street. Maybe a green belt or okay, yeah. I'm sorry, I was addressing the planner there, but yeah, no, I'd like to see, if it's going to be there, maybe a footpath, a bike path, anything but a road. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Sir?
Adam Faulkner. Not currently a resident of West Jordan, however, I am the postmaster here in West Jordan. I was just wondering if we could get any kind of consideration for land set aside to address the postal needs. and be able to maybe expand what we have now to an office up in that area. Right now, with the way West Jordan is growing and the work that we do with all the developers and the future plans that we see, the building we have now is obviously not going to be sufficient, let alone it's not really convenient for the customers at this end of West Jordan to come all the way down to 3200 West and 78 South for any of their mailing needs. We do have a small retail unit that's up Bingham Canyon, but it's not really sufficient as far as building wise. It's not sufficient to house carriers or to get any kind of delivery set up out of, being as small as it is, just a retail type unit. And it's really not sufficient for this many residents as is currently there and that will be coming there in the future to go up there to use that facility. So I don't know if we could get something put into this plan or a future plan that we could possibly look at working with the city of West Jordan to get a facility put up there. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else interested in seeking anything new?
Ben Nacarado at 8551 Mesa Arch. Main concern of ours is 67th West. The kids in the neighborhood west of 67th would then have to cross a major road to get to the elementary school. And there's plans of lights or anything like that roundabout where that is. Right now it's a dead end, and with that community, it becoming a major road is a large concern, aside from the schools popping out at the seams, right? But you all know that. So that's it.
Okay, my name's Valerie Pedigo. I live at 6327 West, 8755 South. I'm straight out there at the top, about the middle is where I live. I also did my research when I elected to build a home there at Three Forks, and it is low density, and that is one of the reasons we elected to buy there. I'm okay with this. I wasn't naive, and I don't think any of us were naive that this wasn't going to be developed. We get that, but taking it from a low density to a medium density, and it's the very minimum, or very close to the very minimum size lot to qualify as medium density. Putting some numbers to that today, so the Olympia Hills fiasco that was like 1,000 acres and 30,000 people, residents, came down to about 30 to 33 residents per acre. This dials down to 23 residents per acre. Based on that, Salt Lake County uses a 3.5 average. So that's where I got that number. But it's very close to it's unacceptable, I think, to us. The other, same thing as everybody else, the roadways are inadequate. It's already trafficy. You avoid you avoid 78 South right there and 5600 West. The schools they all feed into the Copper Hills, and that's already overcrowded. So we definitely need more schools if this happens. As far as the commercial goes, one of the things I found in the general plan was to provide adequate and accessible commercial and business services to all city residents. We don't have that now. And to add the approximate 5,000 residents or 4,800 residents to that immediate area, nobody's going to have anything, and we're going to have to go everywhere else to get our basic needs. So we just don't have those things now. I understand it hasn't been developed yet, but until it is, I don't see how you can put another 5,000 residents in that immediate area. Public transit also. You put that many people that close together, they're gonna need a way to get around. And I don't mind not having the transit, But at the same thing, if you're gonna put that many people there, you've gotta have a way to get them around to their jobs and have an economic impact on the city. And that's, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Pedigo. Anyone else this evening?
I just have a quick question. I'm Lisa Anderson. I live on 6362 West Elbow River Circle, so I'm the cul-de-sac just on the corner of 86 South and 64th West. I also back 8600 South, the part that is developed. My concern is a connection, if you do put a road clear to U111, that there might be an exit there off of U111 and 8600 South. We're concerned about the traffic going through all of our backyards that we have never had before, and would plead that there would not be an exit, a new exit off of Bacchus at that point. And I wanted to know about that. Thank you.
Aaron LaBruza, 8367 Hollyoak Drive. Both my wife and I are concerned for the schooling needs of what the proposed plan is and the population will bring in. Also, my understanding is that our taxes are about to go up 18% in West Jordan to fund more police. So I wouldn't be opposed to having maybe another hub or something of West Jordan Police Department out in this area. I do understand and have heard other residents with issues on response time in this area. So something to consider. I don't know if it's also to consider something what West Jordan can legally do to maybe have some money set aside with the individuals trying to build out here to help with us building schools instead of it only being the burden of your residents and our taxes. And that's all that I had.
Anyone else this evening?
Hello, my name is Melissa Hiller. I live at 6208 Black Goose Circle. So some of the other people have already talked a little bit about commercial. And my concern right now as a citizen, someone that lives out there today, I find myself shopping outside of West Jordan more often than not. It is a lot easier for me to just jump on Mountain View and head down to Harriman or Riverton than it is to even get to Jordan Landing, because going anywhere east and west is just a lot harder these days than it is going south. So when we say there's 9 acres in this development of commercial, and that it's within walking distance for these residents, that's not a lot to walk to. There just isn't anything I would want to walk to as someone that lives there now. And I just don't think the commercial is enough. It's just not enough for that area. And I understand it's gonna be developed. I appreciate you guys trying to keep it low density. I think that that's where everyone's ideas are at. The other thing I just wanted to mention on that plan is, and I don't know if the city still has anything in place, but I see lots of roundabouts in that plan. Please, no more. If you live out there, I mean, we're starting to turn into daybreak. And at first when I moved out there, I was like, these roundabouts are so awesome, until I drove them every day. And now I'm like, these are awful because nobody knows how to drive in a roundabout. And so just please don't add more in there. It's already hard enough. So thank you.
Anyone else? Come on down. Going once, going twice. We'll close the public comment section. We appreciate all of those comments. Thank you for the opinions. Thank you for your feedback. Living out in that area, we appreciate your concern. I think it might be best if we go to the staff first before we have the applicant come back up. And let's make sure we address these items. Why don't we take them one by one here, with the most prolific one seem to be the traffic impact, perhaps any future expansion plans for U111.
Before you go to the staff,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make one comment to the citizenry before we go to the staff to answer to address at least one thing. There were multiple people that you talked about school overcrowding. There's nobody more more sensitive to school overcrowding than the seven of us sitting up here, and probably the seven people with the mayor and the city council. Please understand that we cannot, under state law, address school overcrowding when we deal with zoning. So please understand that. The state requires, and I understand that, but the state requires Jordan School District, whether they like it or not, or we like it or not, to provide schools for the kids. If that means it's portables, that's what Jordan School District with their financial has to do. But what I want you to understand is we cannot take that into consideration. And so I don't want to make it think like we're discounting what you said tonight about school overcrowding. We get it, but we cannot consider that. So don't think that we're ignoring that particular part of what you said tonight, because we are. We actually have to ignore that by law.
Thank you, Commissioner Green. If it helps, the feeder school here, the Copper Hills High School, I'm the PTSA president at Copper Hills High School, and I serve on the community council, and I've been PTSA president at the middle school and the elementary school before that. And yes, that's just the law. We don't know how Jordan School District will accommodate those students. They have to accommodate them, but they don't have to tell us how at this point. So thank you for clarifying that up front. Let's go to the staff, please, with traffic impact, potential expansion. There's been talk, Mr. Miller was talking about traffic on 87th. Ms. Nacarado was talking about, or Mr. Nacarado, 6700, trying to cross the road. Connection to U-111 from Ms. Anderson. Potential public transit. Any thoughts on that? We do have our traffic engineer, Bill Baranowski, here.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to kind of give a big picture of what we have in our master plan out there. Whether or not this development is approved or any other development is approved, we're going to follow that master plan as much as possible. Particularly on 86 South, that road's planned as a collector road, a very important collector road that will soon have a bridge that bridges the Mountain View Freeway or Mountain View Corridor. That bridge will allow traffic from New Bingham Highway or near Copper Hills High School to travel directly all the way west to at least Highway 111 in the future. So that'd be nice to have no traffic or just bicycles and pedestrians in the backyard, but our master plan shows about 12 to 14,000 cars a day on that road when it's built out. U-111 is also planned to be a 5-lane highway in this area, and it will have traffic signal at 86 South, and the next one to the south will be at 90th South. And that road is going to be access restricted. There will be no access is allowed for that half-a-mile section. So that's pretty much dictated by UDOT, who controls that roadway. Whether or not that is constructed in the near future or not depends on UDOT, but we'll certainly encourage them to consider putting in those signals and widening the road.
Thank you. Any plans for public transportation? That was brought up by a few residents.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Right. That's not necessarily a West Jordan.
It depends on if we get the densities and the people out there and the demand to use public transit. I'm sure it will be something they will consider, and I'm sure they'll want to raise your taxes to do it.
One of those chicken and the egg, if you build it, they will come type thing. There's a concern of not having it, but you can't get it until density dictates that. Thank you. Any other thoughts on?
Yeah, I'd just like to talk about the amount of traffic from this development. We're going to require an extensive traffic impact study once the zoning and the phasing and the different things are determined and finalized. Right now, it's guesswork, but if you took this property and only had quarter-acre lots, what's that, about 900 lots? 11, and they're proposing 1,100. So it's pretty close to being a low-density development based on the number of lots and the acreage. But the amount we expect some of the traffic numbers to be a little bit lower for the age-restricted people and this, what do you call it? Assisted living housing. I don't think we want those assisted living people to be driving. And they'll probably be taken care of on site. They might have shuttles, so that there will be some reductions for those different land uses. So I think that's important to keep in mind, even though there's a certain number of lots. It's pretty close to being a typical development, but the traffic's, I don't think, the number one issue. And then we have met with the school district on that corner piece, and they've indicated that that's going to be an elementary school and a middle school. And we like the developer to work closely with them so that the school boundaries can be adjusted so that the people living in this development will have a walking route and a close school to attend. So I hope that perhaps the school can construct those schools and get those schools operating about the same time that this development is implemented.
Great, thank you. And so that Ms. Hiller can sleep well tonight, can you address roundabouts?
Well, roundabouts they're an acquired taste. I think if we had, we could take a vote here. Who likes roundabouts in the audience? Well, those are the brave people. Thank you for coming. But I think that's would you prefer a four-way stop at those locations? Okay. So unfortunately, we don't let people vote on what we put at intersections, but we'll certainly work with the developer to make this the safest roundabout-friendly development in the city.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Luthi.
Yeah, you spoke about 86, but just for those that are here, Bill, will you speak about the future development for 90th South as well?
Can you repeat that question?
Sorry, you talked about 86 in the master plan. For the people here, will you talk about the master plan for 90th as well?
Okay. Recently, about 2 years ago, we built a beautiful section of 90th South from Redwood all the way to 56 West, and we tied a little bow on it and we gave it to UDOT. We said, here's a gift. So we created this beautiful road, and we're going to do the same thing for this section of 90th South from Highway 111 to 56 West in the future. So expect to see a very similar roadway that you see today to the east. And it will be transferred in the future to UDOT. That's we usually trade one road for another, so we might trade New Bingham Highway for 90th South with them, like we did for the last trade.
Good.
Yeah, so also 90th South will be going through, is what he's saying. It's that neighborhood that's now stopped where you're going off towards the ballpark. That's not the case
At Ronwood Park, it will connect to
correct
to Mount View corridor and to the rest of 90th South.
Yeah, I think if you're not familiar with the master plan, that'll catch you off guard because right now they're completely separated.
Mm-hmm.
Let's if you could speak to that, but then we won't take any questions from the audience at this point. But could you speak to 90th South as Commissioner Luthi
was saying is the developer just needs to work with the postal service and to see if there might be a site that might work for them somewhere and be able to work that into the plan. But that's just would be go through a typical site plan review process and kind of a typical development review. As far as the DNR,
We'll certainly make them aware of this, but I think the wildlife, it's, pasturing in this area, at least as far as antelope are concerned. The other animal, I think they're coming out of the Okers is where they're coming. They're more heavily vegetated, but I think they like the wheat and stuff. It's easy pickings, and so we'll certainly, make them aware of. I'll get in contact with them and ask them what is their procedure as far as the development of these, last remaining pieces of large farmland. 30 years ago it was all just open range for them, but and unfortunately wildlife all along the Wasatch Front are being squeezed out and they're being squeezed back up into the hills. But the wash corridor will more than likely become some kind of wildlife habitat corridor. I saw that a lot when I worked in Cottonwood Heights. They had few wash corridors, and it was amazing the amount of animals that would go that you would never notice that were there. And so, but I will get in contact with them and then report back to the commission. I can't promise anything because that's completely and utterly out of my jurisdiction. It's be up to the DWR if they're even concerned about it.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Brockbank, a lot of talk about density and police and fire response time. If you could speak to any concerns there, please.
Yes, we have concerns as well. We are, can you hear me now? Oh. Okay, how about now? Okay. We do have concerns as we start to build away from our fire stations. The City Council has mandated a 4 to 5 minute response time. We are anticipating putting a station out in this area as development grows that way. We don't have any plans on the books right now, nor have we identified any building lots or anything like that. But as we start to move through this undeveloped area, we certainly are going to have to put another fire station out there. As far as the police station, putting a substation out there, we do have one at 54th or 5600 West in Holly Park, which I don't know what the response time is to this area, but I know police will be looking at this area as well as far as being able to respond in a timely fashion.
Great, thank you, Mr. Brockbank. And to speak to Mr. Saxe's question on resident procedure, how do you speak up, whether it's in favor or against a proposal? This is the procedure here. And then please note that we're a recommending body to City Council. So really, this would go before City Council, and they'll hear the same thing. They'll take our recommendation, but there'll be another public hearing, another citizen comment section, and this would happen again. So you're welcome to go to City Council and voice your opinions to the mayor and the council members. And let's, yes, please, Commissioner Hatch.
And I'd also like to point out we're a volunteer committee, so we're not voted in. We serve purely at our own interest in our city.
citizens have commented on. Specifically, a couple of items.
The commercial piece, are you amenable to expanding that? There's talk about restaurants, expanding it to be perhaps a bigger area. And then the other question, amenities within your development. You talk about selling memberships. If you buy a house there, that you're automatically get a membership. But what about outside memberships being built?
Okay, I'll address that first. We will be opening the club for memberships. They could, outside residents can buy a membership, and then they would be able to participate in all the amenities. So it's just not exclusive for this development, but people that live outside of it could also purchase a membership.
And that's for all your amenities?
For all of it, yeah. Just in terms of the commercial, commercial is a scary thing. If you talk to commercial developers now, they're all kind of trying to figure out what to do. Most of the retailers are not expanding. The big box retailers not expanding. There's so much paranoia about Amazon and the way we as consumers purchase our retail that there's a real concern about how much do you zone? How much do you provide? Nobody has the answer. So there's been a lot of concern whether we're actually going to be able to fill 9 acres, whether there's going to be viable retailers willing to come there, because a lot of the retailers are not expanding. We are fully in favor of restaurants. We're fully in favor of those services that would provide a higher quality of life for our residents, and those are the things we are pursuing. Those are the segments of retail that are expanding: experiential retail and restaurants. So that's what we would hope that would come here. But in terms of growing and expanding it to a larger footprint, we've been around the block 100 times internally as a team. We felt comfortable with about 10 acres of retail. We've talked to some brokers and kind of passed the site plan around and to see what they would think was viable. And this is kind of what we've arrived at as what would be viable. So it doesn't do the city any good to over-allocate retail space if you can't fill it, because the worst thing you can do is build retail establishments that are dark. So we want to do the right thing. We want to make it a vibrant commercial that's profitable for the city. We understand how cities work. It's the revenue generator for the city, and that's important. But we also want to make sure that it's vibrant and active, and not building a bunch of square footage that you can't lease. One final comment I will say about density. I hear this everywhere I go. I live in Utah. I was born in Utah. I was born and raised here. I went to Taylorsville High School, just up the road. And I understand people are worried about density, but the reality of market and affordability, we would all hope that our kids can afford a half-acre lot, but the reality is that they can't. And the days of large lots, I'm not gonna preach to you. So we've tried to make a really good guess at what the market wants, a good blend of different lot sizes, and a really high-quality senior development. With a highly diversified amenity package. So we've done our homework. I totally appreciate the residents, and I appreciate their passion, and I'm grateful for all of their comments and all of your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Hawes. Are there any further questions for the applicant? All right, that's it.
Thank you.
Well, let's deliberate on commissioners. Commissioner Gertie?
All right, I'll start. As Commissioner Quinn says, we know you will, but I'll start. I'll break the ice.
far as open